Hello, my dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome to the East West Show. My name is Jack. I'm with the G&E TV with lots of pride. Today with me is my good friend, Mr. Chris Shatinian, the former state senate candidate. I see him not only that, and by the way, I'll check about with him later. Probably he's running for something else. I don't know. But I see somewhere, somehow up there, either federal or say still state assembly, we do need somebody who holds a very strong ideology that we all adore for a better job. So welcome to the show, sir, my friend.
Thank you, Jack. I'm honored to be here again. So this is maybe my fourth interview with you, and I like your show. I like your energy. I like your what you stand for, and I love the people that watch this TV. And thanks again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank
I'm
you
honored
very
to be here.
much. Thank you very much. And by the way, this is the fourth show. For previous three shows, I received quite a few respond via email. Somebody even called me the office, and some even called my cell phone who happened to be close to me. Knowing my cell phone number, they give a very high comment, and the feedback is so strong. Especially the issues we're talking about are the issues that have really been touched, right? And the issues we neglect, we ignore all the time. Now, number one, our homelessness, which includes our homeless veterans, which is a miracle anyway.
Yeah.
So hard to believe. And number two, we're talking about our food waste. Food waste has reached to a level that we have to worry about the survival of the humanity, if we keep on doing so, right? Today, he and I, we are touching base with you about things that are happening that's domestic, both domestic and foreign. I believe it is very bothering to see both domestic and foreign, for especially last week,
Yeah.
right? Past few 2 3 days. So how do you feel about it, please?
Let me tell you, this is a very, very serious issue we're facing our nation for decades. And we fought the Civil War in the United States. We passed, 1960s Voting Rights Acts for discrimination. And now, in 2017, it's looked like the wound that's still not healed, and all of a sudden in Charlottesville, Virginia, because of the city council decided to move the Statue of Confederation, General Robert Lee statue, and there was a protest organized by white, I'm call it by name, white supremacists and KKK group, led by their leader, and to protest that movement for city council. And there was counter protest, which is our First Amendment allow freedom to protest. And two sides came together, but the tension was so high, and I believe they were intentionally coming to that scene to create conflict and to create a problem for our nation. And that's what happened. And of course, Charlottesville city gave them the permit for both sides, which I have to go back and say, you know what, first responsibility should go to the mayor of that city. He wasn't wise enough to understand the tension that was there for months since Donald Trump was elected. This tension was there, boiling since the election time, between left and right, between media and our president was not de-escalating situation. His statement on Twitter, left and right, he was fueling this kind of situation.
All right.
And because of city allowed this permit, and there was not enough security there, and this is what tragedy happened. And one crazy young guy from Ohio drove his car toward the protester, counter-protester, and a young lady, 32-year-old woman, died on the scene, and 20 wounded. And this is tragedy for us. This is not 1960s. We're not talking, on civil. This is 2017,
All right.
and in the United States, act of terrorists against one another. This is not right. This is targeting our core values, because the United States is built on immigrant, built on diversity, and embracing one another, caring one another. This is not right. I believe every politician, every leader in this country, they should stand up loud and clear and denounce this act of terrorism and violence, what's happening in our nation. This is very serious. And politicians and elected officials, they have huge responsibility to get up on TVs and not blame one another, and talk to the people that this is not the American way. We're not in Middle East.
All right.
We're not in Africa. We are in the United States. Our founding fathers, they put the foundation in this country that we all have to live together, white, brown, yellow, and all together.
Right. Thank you very much for the precise statement, for the precise update, and for the precise or for the severe denouncing for that event, the terrorist attack. But I have additional take, right? I would like to share with you, with my audiences.
Sure.
Right. And this is a terrorist attack, a violence attack, but it's not an attack by foreign terrorists. It is homegrown amongst ourselves. Right? Number one issue that causes my attention, a lot of media's attention, is that it is a confirmed dead issue already. Right? The Confederal is a confirmed dead issue. Nobody talks about it. Nobody brings it back, and now it is back. All right. I want to find out why it is back. Why? It has to have some soil to grow it, right? To cultivate it. So, to your take, what has made the comeback, please?
David Duke is the leader of this movement. And he's been known in our history that his ideology is not welcome in the United States. And he has radical ideas. And that's why every time you hear the David Duke name, it's associated with white supremacists, KKK, and this division that bring in our country.
The KKK has been, the Ku Klux Klan has been notorious for decades after decades already, and also it is coming back. So
they promote bigotry, which is like intolerance toward the others' different ideas. And the idea that United States belong to only white, this is absurd. This is unacceptable. And if this ideology not been contained now, and for once for all, David Duke and his followers, they should be some kind of regulation against this kind of movement. Yes, we live in a free country. Yes, we have a freedom for a press. This is our First Amendment, but not on the price of killing others. This is unacceptable to put the flame on the young guys to be able to drive, to use his car as a weapon to kill Americans. We've seen that in Paris when ISIS did this.
Do you see the soil that brings this old issue back?
It's racist issue.
Yes.
And Martin Luther King
I smell something strange ever since the past about a year or sometime. Lots of issues, old issues, dead issues coming back. The Confederate is one thing, right? And while if you do not do anything, slavery will come back.
Definitely.
So that is something very dangerous. That is something I call critical. So we want to find out the root problem. To the root of it, what brought it back?
Well, 2008, we had our first African-American black president. That was a turning point for some people. They never imagined that the United States should have, African-American president. And 8 years, they were like praying that day that this era will end. But this is United States. Tomorrow, maybe we will have a Chinese immigrant president. I mean, born descent, and this is the United States. And the idea that, and by the way, Confederation, they fight against United States. They were enemy of United States. We can't consider them as state against state. They fight against our core values, United States. And the Statue of Confederation represent slavery, represent division in our country and racism in our country. And we thought that we covered that page. We thought that we passed that stage.
Yeah, that's exactly where I get confused.
Yes.
Right. That's exactly why I raise a question to find out the root problem, which is the climate, which is the soil, right? With me today is my good friend, Chris Shahinian. I admire him not for being a brother, kind of a friend to me. Also, he is a thinker, he is a philosopher, and he is a leader kind of man. Lucky that's our community, we have him as one of the leaders. And he was once candidate for California Senate. And I don't think that's a stop that's a stop for him. Let's talk about it when we have time. Today we're sharing with you our problems of facing domestic, foreign, both. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Hello, my dear friends, my lovely audience, ladies and gentlemen, my dear fellow Americans. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening, good midnight, whatever, depending on where you are, because this is a cross-nation show. I would like to share with you some thoughts. Together, we would discuss. With me today is my honor to have my good friend, Chris Shahinian, former candidate for Senate of California, to come here to join me, sharing his thoughts to discuss about what's happening, both domestic and international. Domestically, we're not very happy. We're kind of at shock, learning about what happened with Charlottesville last week, which was something, an issue, if that was an issue, has already been confirmed dead. We already dealt with it nicely, peacefully, and wonderfully. Now it's coming back. Right, and regarding the fact that people died, people wounded. Oh, by the way, we share the thoughts with the families whose loved one passed, and we offer our best. I mean, the most condolences to those families hit, those wounded hit. But the thing is that after shock, it is the aftermath, in my way, after math analysis that probably makes more sense, right? With me, my friend Chris shared his thoughts about confirming that those issues, the Confederate issues, kind of dead issues already. And we are focusing on the fact why it comes out. Again.
Well, let me tell you, thank you for this opportunity again. There is a bipartisan reaction against what happened on Saturday. And from both aisle, Republicans, Democrats, they all came together, they announced what has happened. And I commend Governor Virginia Terry McFarland for his stand when he said for white supremacists or PKK, go home. You have no place in Virginia. You have no place in California. You have no place in the United States. We have no place for this kind of crazy terrorist ideology. We are a nation of welcoming. We are a nation of diversity. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. That's why you're here. That we came here to live the American dream because we have the freedom here. We are one nation under one God, and
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, and this ideology hijacking our liberty, that's what we stand for, and we cannot allow this. No matter how many votes they bring for certain candidates.
Let the denunciation rest a little bit. And still want to find out what brought it back. You mentioned a very good point, by which you're saying that 2008, we started for the first time in history to have a colored president. That, if that, we call a start from that point on, both supporters and oppositors, right? They kind of get their ideology expanded. On the supporters' side, they kind of exaggerated what the color represents. The color represents nothing.
Definitely.
Color just happened to be a color, right? They enlarge it. They got it kind of get it out of control. And on the other side, the rivals, the opposers, they kind of expanded their concept also. So there starts the conflicts.
Okay,
Do you think so?
We don't have to. One side is, I don't want to take a side, but this is reality. Is reality. One side, yes, they were coming to against that protest, but their intention was not to terrorize people. Their intention not to kill people. Their intention was, they were so shocked that this confederation is coming back, and it all happened after Donald Trump was elected. I'm not going to say anything about Donald Trump. He's our president. This is the way we function. But he failed his presidency test when the nation is going to this kind of situation. We expect the president to come out and lead the nation and give a statement to de-escalate situation, come down and call the devil by his name.
Is that a tweeting this nation?
And we never seen a president that does what he's doing now. But he's free. We live in a free country. He's president. Yeah. He's has to do. But in this kind of situation, when you know that this kind of sensitive issue is going to bring back slavery, bring back this deep soil that you said about
discrimination, separation,
about
slavery, those old dead issues.
And he should have been more clearly, more solid, and say, you know what, denounce the side that make this commit this.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. With me today is my good friend Chris Sheehan. He is the former candidate for state senate with some beautiful set of mind, with an ideology that is so strong that we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and the justice for all, so like that, right? I still want to go back to the root. We're half done yet, right? The other half will be at the turn between Obama and Trump, right? Between Donald and Obama, things seem to be like an overturn from 100 degrees this way going to 180 degrees the other way, something like that.
Correct.
In this case, instead of the Obama supporter being expanded with their ideology, the Supreme, I would say, got their ideas expanded, and the Obama supporter got defeated, and they are not feeling good, of course, and then the conflicts got once again there, and it grows something altogether. It forms the soil. Do you think so?
Let me tell you. Yes, Democrats were very disappointed, upset from this election because 2 weeks before the election, it was almost done. Hillary Clinton, she was going to be the first female president. All this, polling, everything was, toward that she's going to be president. Democrats were shocked, and Obama team, all we were like kind of disbelieve what happened. And immediately came this collaboration with the Russian issue. That flamed the issue, and we're not done with that issue yet. But I have to say this, if you dance with the devil is not going to change. Devil is going to change you.
All right.
And this ideology of separatism and white supremacy, KKK, it's dancing with the devil. And it's going to hurt.
They are devil themselves.
Yeah, and it's going to hurt our nation. And that's why I think we have to bury this root of this discrimination once for all. If we have to, all Congress stand up together one day to make a statement all together with the president, with the cabinet, that we have to bury this thing.
Yes.
But unfortunately,
yes.
Unfortunately, there's some elected officials. They need the vote to get elected, re-elected.
For the Supremes, from the Supremes.
And they have vote. These people, they get up and vote. And I think as a decent American, Democrat or Republican,
regardless,
we should not bow to anybody, even if that person, that group is going to put me president. But if their ideology is destruction for our nation, we should not accept their support. We should say no for them.
All right, very good. Thank you for that analysis. Thank you for that call, all right? I give you an example. If there's two brothers fighting, right, they may continue fighting all the time until there's a moment when they feel, they see the family being attacked. So them, the big brother or younger brother or left brother or right brother, they realize, oh, we are at danger, right? Our fighting dangers is our family. So they probably want to unite. They want to probably unite in the fight against the intruders, something like that, right? This event would only be a good thing if you learn lesson from it, right? What lesson to be learned? Lesson to be learned by Democrats, lesson to be learned by Republicans. Anyway, we're two brothers, right? So we do not want to see those dead issues, those devils come alive again.
Definitely. Look, Jack, we have other major issue crisis, that coming against United States, and that North Korea threat. And I think this is the time we all understand that we need one another, and we are in a verge of nuclear war.
Yeah, we'll talk about that part when we come back. But right now, this morning, I overheard a piece of news on my way in that somebody sued the 3 out of the 9 judges of Supreme Court for their approval of same-sex marriage, right? Okay, that news is one thing. That news is one thing, but I'm talking about when the news was read, there are lots of comments, and there are names called. This attorney who sued the 3 judges, got called names, right? We're a free country. Everybody has the right to say what they want to say. Be his right to do so while you call the names. So those extreme right, extreme left, either way, I do not like.
And I have to say, the media has a huge responsibility here also.
You're right.
Media play a major role in our nation. We have First Amendment, free press, yes. But for God's sake, don't flame the issue. Don't make radical statement that
the fact the media is called a media is because you are a media.
Yeah,
right.
And
you're not ignition.
And sometimes they are going beyond the journalists, beyond reporting something. They are giving their statement. They are fooling the audience. This is not right.
All right, let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll take another look to see what's happening foreign. Stay with us, please. Hello, dear friends. Welcome back to the show. Today, our title is Domestic and Foreign. We are both troubled with both ways. Domestic, we're talking about what happened with Charlottesville, and that's something very devastating, and gives you a wake-up call, because we have stepped into a critical moment that we got to do something. We got to stop the pointing fingers at each other. We got to work together. We got to fight together for the future of the United States. Now, joining me, my friend Chris Shahinian. He is the former candidate for California Senate. I don't think Senate will be his full stop. And when chances allow, by the way, do you think you want to run for some higher office or same office?
Well, we'll leave that discussion for later, but I think I have to make the statement that we need representative elected officials. They represent people. They listen to the people. And today, our Congress approval rating is 10%. So just imagine how much they are disconnected from people, disconnected for our real issues. That's why we need to elect people. They understand the issues. They understand the middle families. They understand young people. They understand the elderly. They understand that everybody is concerned.
That's why I recommend you go ahead and do something, because we need somebody with a strong hold of healthy ideology, not opportunists. Where we have too many opportunists. All right, that's our problem.
You're a wise man. I'll take your advice.
Thank you. All right, please. Talking about international, foreign, what do you think is something that we need to find out and what to talk about, please?
Well, since Tuesday morning, there was the whole thing changed internationally. We are in the verge of nuclear military confrontation with North Korea. And we know North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, and his father and grandfather. Their ideology always, they think if you don't have nuclear power, there's a chance that the United States come and take over. They have a fear that they need to protect themselves. And Kim Jong-un, after his father died, the same time, like last 10 years, there's a lot of things happen. Saddam Hussein gave up his Scud missile, he's gone. Gaddafi, Libyan colonel, he gave up his nuclear, he's gone. And this young leader, he was scared that, wow, if I don't have nuclear weapon, if I don't make nuclear weapon now, I'm going to end up like Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein.
Like them.
And that fear motivated him to move faster to develop nuclear weapon. And it's not new now. I think we have to accept the idea that North Korea could be the next nuclear power. But I think the United States is not prepared, and international community is not prepared. And some of them, they play games, by the way. Russia and other nations, they play.
One by one, issue by issue. I like the fact that I like your analysis about why this guy, Kim Jong-un, has the mind of fear, why he fears that much. We want to confirm that, are you saying the world has set some examples for him to see? Oh, if you take, by the way, he takes his way, right?
Yes.
Oh, this is what shall happen to me if I do not have it, right?
I think anybody knows the international news, watched what happened last 10 years, he knows that's a scenario,
And
it's a reality for him.
For that same perspective, we know Iran has its own efforts going that way. Why there are less noises heard about Iran, and less attacks or so ever, or retaliation or whatever,
Let me tell you,
like we do with the North Korea.
there was, if you go back 2-3 years, we were almost on the verge of starting war with Iran. But I want to give credit for President Obama also. He was wise enough not to trigger that war, and he put his effort on diplomacy. And today, I think we avoid the war with Iran. It could have been disaster for us.
Has Iran stopped?
I think we are controlling Iran now. We have some sanction. We put sanction and sanction. Now I think they can't have a nuclear weapon. That's the deal between us.
But have they stopped now?
Well, theoretically, yes, they stopped, but no one knows what they are doing.
Oh, they might secretly do something, but openly they are stopped.
Yes, but we avoid the big confrontation. We avoid that, and I give it credit for our diplomacy. John Kerry played a big role, our former Secretary of State, going back and forth, months and months, meeting in Geneva, finally gave food. I know at one point, Iranian, they left the room. They said, no, we're not going to negotiate. We're not going to give up our, sovereignty.
Like Kim Jong-un right now.
Yes, but in diplomacy, won against a war. And I know in the United States, military industrial live there
of course,
by creating war.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And I'm sure Donald
Live
Trump
on wars, yes.
circulated a lot of people in his circle. They want to go war because war generate income for them.
Oh, yeah,
and,
you're right.
And we know that. We talk about that later because our defense budget is...
Yeah, I have numbers in my mind.
Yeah, 65% of our U.S. general fund goes to defense. 65%. Just imagine. And on top of that, Donald Trump gave $50 billion additional for defense. Yes, we want to be the superpower, but we don't want to just like invade left and right country. But coming back to North Korea, I think we have to use what Theodore Roosevelt said. We have to use a stick and then walk slowly. Walk slowly and then use a stick, same one hand. Basically, we have to show that we are the superpower. And we have, on the other hand, we have to say, what, we are here to negotiate. We are here, we're not your enemy. 2 weeks ago, our Secretary of State said, that we're not Korean enemy. That was a
Yeah,
great
of
statement.
course.
But right after starting this,
all right. If we're talking about 2 years ago, if things had been like 2 years ago, we are right. We're right to keep thinking that way, to follow the Iranian example, how President Obama and his administration dealt with Iran issue, right? But now, regardless of why this guy Kim Jong-un had that much fear, why this guy takes that kind of route so devastatedly, right? Problem is that he is that much. We are on the verge already, right? Now talking about anything is too late. It is too late to say, hey, let's go back to whatever, right? Let's go back to negotiation table. And here is 1,000, whatever, dollars a unit, say. Now, right now people are talking about attack, military attack. It is time to attack. And then there goes China. China made a position which clearly indicates that you, hey, United States, you're not supposed to fire the first shot.
Correct.
If you're fired the second shot, of course, we stand behind you because you were firing a shot in defense. If you're firing first shot, however reason you might have, you lose your ground. China pushes the United States to do the right thing. Now, the United States, now there are two voices. Voice saying that, yes, you're right, and China is right that we are not firing the first shot. Wait until they fire their first shot, and then we can retaliate 1,000 times, which is for voice number one. Voice number two, if we wait that much, will be too late. U.S. Guam is heard already, including Hawaii whatsoever, right? So where do you stand?
Let me tell you, number one, Chinese, they have a great leader, very wise, very calm president. And I believe in that region, China should be the one who's de-escalating situation. And China has southern China has a border with North Korea. And Chinese people,
northeast border,
they don't like to see nuclear war in their backyard.
No, of course.
And no one like that. And United States should give the leadership and green light to Chinese president so he directly to interfere the situation. Let me give you the example, 1960s on Cuban Missile Crisis.
Okay.
You know how we avoid that missile crisis?
The Cuban Missile Crisis?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
It already was like nuclear war was go
on the verge.
No, it was go on Soviet Union side. There was 3 generals. They had to push that red button.
The buttons, yeah.
2 generals, they say yes, and 1 general said, you know what, no. And the same time, Robert Kennedy and JFK Kennedy, they were negotiating behind the scene to stop this nuclear. And it was a negotiation going on. And look what happened. We avoid the major missile crisis, and I give credit Robert Kennedy. What happened? They came to agreement. We, United States, we pulled from Turkey our missiles from Italy, and Soviet Union pulled his missile from Cuba. That was a deal. Okay. And we avoid the war. We could do the same thing now with North Korea. But we don't have Robert Kennedy now. We don't have JF Kennedy now. We have Donald Trump and his team.
But we have Chris Shaheen.
Yeah, maybe it's a good time to bring new players to the scene. That they have cool-headed, they're not warmongers. They can look at the situation and they go to his Kim Jong-un brain head. They understand the fear. They tell me, listen, we're not going to attack you. Okay, but we want this. We want to guarantee that you're not going to attack South Korea. We want to guarantee, there's some kind of level of diplomacy.
Okay, very good.
We have an example in missile crisis. Sure. We have that.
Yeah, let's take a very short moment now. And this sounds very interesting. I like the example of the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's something people forget. I don't. Let's talk about it and continue. We'll probably, from that point on, find a cure to this problem. Now, stay with us. With me today is my good friend, Chris Shahinian, former California Senate candidate, and with a set of a beautiful brand and the mind that cares for the community. And not only that, he thinks federally, he thinks internationally. So stay with us. We'll be right back, please. Hello, dear friends, my fellow lovely Americans. Welcome back to the show. Jack is my name. East West is the show. G&E TV is the flagship. We're talking about a problem, domestic and foreign. With domestic and foreign, we had the opportunity of Mr. Chris Shahinian, a former candidate for California Senate, to join us sharing his thought. Speaking of Mr. Shahinian, he is a figure that I adore for so much, not only because of the set of mind and the ambition is the part I'm talking about. And he thinks not only his own backyard and way, way beyond. Now we're talking about internationally, how we want to handle the crisis with North Korea, right? He mentioned the good example for the 1960s Cuban Missile Crisis that was resolved right on the verge, almost to explode already. Well, the 2-versus-1 situation. Yep. Well, successfully. Can we do it? Can we repeat it? Can we duplicate it? So, you think we can?
Definitely. Number one, I think here it's very important to North Korea, Kim Jong-un, to understand that he's not going to achieve to his goal by military aggression.
But who will make him understand?
I believe, I said earlier, China is the godfather in that region. And I'm going to give...
will China be willing to do so?
I think that's another issue, because China and the United States, now we're fighting to be superpower. And that's another issue. We talk about that. And China is fighting to have South Sea Asia control that area. And by the way, the island that China built, that area, 1/3 of the global economy passed to that channel. China has a big influence there, and he has some kind of right in that area. But we, as United States, as a superpower, we have interest over there also. We have interest to keep the peace in that region and everywhere. But in this situation, yes, definitely, we need Henry Kissinger to man that,
he's still alive.
He's still alive. He's very old.
Send him over there.
I'm sure he's thinking now. But I think now, if we send our Secretary of State to Kim Jong, he's not going to be happy. If Chinese people, they get involved, I think they have some. I think we're going to have to find another person.
Somebody from China and the United States all together.
Pope could be the good candidate. Pope? Yeah.
Pope?
Pope. So I think
Pope Frank?
Yes, I think.
Pope Frank? No.
I mean, no. What I'm saying
North
is,
Koreans do not buy Catholics.
I'm not saying somebody neutral. Somebody has a positive influence, and somebody that also has diplomacy.
In this world, do we have somebody that neutral?
I don't know, but I'm sure we have a lot of wise people. They don't want war. They want to avoid war, and I'm sure maybe United Nations Secretary can go and spend some time there and create a team of advisors from both sides to come together and having a mindset of avoiding crises like Cuban Missile
Nobody
Crisis.
from Russia, right?
Russia wants to compete with the United States for sure. He's competing in Syria. He's competing with the United States in Iran. He's competing in Iraq, in Kurdistan. He is showing that ex-Soviet Union is coming back to play major role in international politics.
Chris, I really wish that we can bring one of the Chinese 三国, the triple state, the tripod state. Some translation call it 3 states. Some translation call it the tripod states, which means it keeps record about 3 countries, 3 of the tribals fighting at the same time. At the same time, that was about around the turn of AC and BC, right? Okay. You have Wei, Shu, and Wu, 3 nations, three countries, 3 states fighting each other, right? It is a 1 versus 2 or 2 versus 1 situation, right? Nobody wins over anybody, right? And it tells the 3 can balance. Now we're talking about Russia, China, and the United States, right? People always think who overruns who is the number 1. As a matter of fact, nobody can be number 1 unless together the 3 can make themselves number 1, like that. If I was thinking about, how about if somebody from United States, Henry Kissinger, for example, somebody from China, I don't know, maybe the president, I don't know, president, it has to be equal, right? And somebody from Russia, the 3 of us come to Kim Jong-un himself to convince him.
I think that's a great idea, but what Kim Jong-un wants now, he wants guarantee. He wants guarantee that the United States, they're not going to fight to regime change. He understands if he play hardball and if he fire the first missile, he's going to be the end of his regime. He knows that. He's not that
he's
crazy.
willing to die. He is never afraid of.
He might do that, but that's going to give the green light that, you know, what he is want to accomplish, not going to accomplish. So if what you said, if that 3 people, if they go there to talk with his language, listen, you want security, we're going to give you security. We're not going to invade you. And
you want a promise, we'll give you a promise.
And
you want dollars, we'll give you $1. You want rice, we'll give you rice.
That's, and in return,
we'll feed him. We'll feed
him. If you fire your first missile,
and we will,
and even China, which is like a kind of neighboring country, which is like I call it, you know, godfather, that neighborhood. Even China is going to say, you know what, I can't help you anymore.
Well, China said it already.
Yeah. So
if you fire first shot,
that's it.
The United States and China will stay behind the United States, and together they will put this whole nation out of the earth.
And I think if we start a war, we have in South Korea 30,000 American troops, millions of people life will be like in jeopardy.
You know what the problem is? The problem is right now there's quite a voice talking about the U.S. to fire the first shot.
I'm sure there's people are playing
which is totally wrong.
And that's why I'm going to go to our United States Constitution. In our Constitution, Section 8, only Congress can declare war. Our founding fathers, they put very good solid foundation here that, you know, no one person can declare war without consulting with the Congress. But in this situation, this situation now a little bit changed because only president has the code for nuclear weapon. And the president, he's a supreme.
The president might have done something or might do something stupid enough which triggers the war. It's the same thing.
That's why 61% of Americans, we are not easy what is going situation. We are kind of afraid that our president, he might do something crazy, because during his campaign, he said he was ready to take the first rap.
Given the fact he plays not according to the rules. Sometimes he play with 1.5 deck. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem, right? If he goes out of rule, out of bound, out of regulation, out of custom, whatever. And I'm not saying he declares war. By Constitution, he doesn't have the right. But he may have done something, stupid enough that it triggers a war,
That
no
is
matter
our
how you
greatest
call
fear.
it.
That is our greatest fear. Majority of Americans now, even our Secretary of State said, Americans can sleep, but Americans cannot sleep now. We cannot sleep now. My children, Dad, are we going to have a nuclear war? And I have to convince them, I gave them a story that, 1960, how J.F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy avoid. And I told them that, I believe we have enough wise people in the United States to avoid major.
And then there was another time when in early 70s, when the Russians were going to attack China, nuclear war, to use their nuclear weapons to attack China, U.S. learned about the news. That's why Henry Kissinger was in China, came to China to notify China, and then together they prevented that from happening, right?
See?
Not only the 1960s Cuban Missile Crisis, but also the 1970s, the Russian-China crisis, that could be resolved by way of 3 parties together, something like that. And now why can't we do it again?
I think what our president should do today, he should surround himself. He should surround himself with people. They don't like war. They like peace, and he should listen to them instead of listening one side. They want war, 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 and we know what happened when George Bush went to war, when declared war against Iraq. He said it's going to be very quick, and Donald Trump is using the same term. It's going to be very quick with North Korea. There's no quick war. You can start a war, but you can't finish a war in your term.
Oh,
and
I
Iraqi
recall
war cost us $2 trillion.
Yeah, we call Iraq. We got to Baghdad within 3 days. That was quick. And then the consequences, you're talking about 10 years.
You know how many lives we lost? How many Americans they lost? How many veterans now disabled? Thousands of young people died. And on top of that, $2 trillion.
We just now,
we could have built America.
Sure.
We could have built our bridges.
The whole thing.
We could have fight the poverty. We could have feed every homeless. We could feed every family.
But the money has to go somebody else's pocket.
That warmongers and military
the war. You mentioned that. We mentioned that a while ago, right? Okay, now, the war was contracted. The Iraq war was contracted. You don't know that?
No, educate me.
Okay. The war was contracted to Halliburton.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right.
Well, Dick Cheney. Well,
you know who is the biggest shareholder of Halliburton?
Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney.
I know.
You know who is Dick Cheney? Dick Cheney is a running partner for George Bush, 43. All right?
Sorry, for 1 second I misunderstood your question, but yes, definitely. And that was the trigger of the war. He was behind the war. I'm not going to say
now,
a radical statement.
Are we talking about, or are we talking about there might be somebody, another Dick Cheney, that needs the money?
Yes.
So that we have to create a war.
Yes.
And North Korea is the one. Let's do it. Something like that.
Yes.
Could that be the?
Yes. Let me tell you what's happening in Donald Trump circle now. He was overwhelmingly bombarded by media, by his Russian having some kind of leak, which is not proof yet. And Robert Mueller is after him, going fast as he can. And I think Donald Trump is not happy that all the pressure is coming toward him. I think some people, they advise him to get up from this tension. You start a war. We'll all shift our attention.
No, don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay, There is always another option talk about, which probably will de-escalate the tension. They're talking about how about we handle single-handedly like we did with Osama bin Laden. We take the guy out.
Well, assassinating a president and
That will
way
not,
of
that
declaring
will
war.
prevent, no, that will prevent things from happening, right? So we did that successfully with
Osama bin Laden was not a leader of a nation. Osama bin Laden was not a president. Osama bin Laden was not a king of country. Osama bin Laden was a terrorist group, a leader. So that's a different scenario.
All right, you're talking about
you
as the president of the nation.
Yeah, I think
assassination to that
even our
is the declaration of war.
Our constitution doesn't allow that.
Yeah.
But CIA does that, all the time. But I think that itself could be trigger another war, and then we end up. I think we should avoid all kind of, because we can go to that time, we can miss that target, right? Just imagine we go like we did in Iran when Jimmy Carter sent 4 helicopters to Iran to save the hostage in 1979. What happened?
The hostage crisis,
Disaster. So just imagine we send another commando group and disaster, we miss the target. And then he will shoot the first shot. Millions of people are going to be in jeopardy. One is small-eyed and a war, and then China then
I wonder if I may say so. Well, it looks that it all depends on him.
Depend on international community also.
No, on him. Because the international community is ready. They have seen everything. Depends on him. If he keeps on saying he's kind of bluffing, I believe he's more bluffing than doing anything.
Correct.
Right? He is.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a saber rattling.
Yeah.
Say, like that kind of thing. So he would not actually do anything. So if United States do not misjudge the moment to fire the first shot, and then we can wait, let him do the bluffing, and let him just do the solo.
I think
the world is still the world. We're still okay.
In other way, we don't want a crazy leader every month to threaten his neighbors. We don't want that also. That's why we need to sit down to negotiate, because we don't want South Korean to have all the time a fear. Just imagine, like we have a fear that, like 1960s, Soviet Union is going to attack. We don't want that fear.
There's a bad side, there is a good side.
Yeah, we don't want the South Korean people, millions of people, they be on the verge of fear that, no. We want to settle this with negotiation.
Yeah, the other day I have my friend Ken Hemming with me talking about the fact, is a good thing or a bad thing. They're saying that is bad, the war breaks up. It's good that the United States, North and the South Korea will unite.
Well, in the history of Korea, there's been many times North and South Korea, they've been united, right? Look at the history. I was talking my fellow Korean the other day. He said, Korea has 4,000-year history. We have so many times, been united and divided. And he said South Korea needed then, 1960s, North Korea. Now it's South Korea stronger than North Korea, economically, all this. But we still want people. We still want people. We don't want war. We don't want to kill each other. That's why I believe this warmongers and militant industry people that feeding Donald Trump, that, go one more war. I think this...
and Donald Trump is not himself. He's got a team behind him. He's got a whole chorus behind him singing the wars. So, and if somebody say, hey, let's go fight the war, I'll contract it. So, and he will play once again the George 43. So same thing. Okay, my dear audience, everything points to one point, that we do not need another war.
Peaceful.
We have suffered enough already. We suffered more than enough already. We don't need any additional war. If they can find a way of doing it, otherwise, please go ahead, do it. We are tired of war, fighting. Right? With me today, my good friend Chris Shahinian. Thank God for having created such a set of beautiful minds. I don't think the Senate what was his first stop. I mean, what his final stop. And I really push you or urge you, because we need some new concept there. 10% of approval rate is such a poor rate, it's almost a joke, right? So we want to improve that. So, my dear audience, thank you very much. We thank you for watching, and to my friend Chris, thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much. I want all Americans to sleep well tonight, and South Korea and every people in the world to sleep well.
Very good.